I've been asked many times where I get the Boxart for my ROMs, and I wanted to make this video to answer that question. Now, I will be showing some examples on the screen of the different types of Boxart that you can get, and then I'm going to be going over each individual way you can do this. I will be going over a few different methods, some you may be aware of, and some I have not heard many people mention at all. I will be using the MiyooMini Plus to illustrate these methods. However, they're not limited to just the MiyooMini Plus, and if you're using a different device, they should work for that also, and I will point out the settings that would need to be changed if you're using something else. Welcome to FireX Techs. My name is Henry. Let's get on with it. The first and easiest method is to use the built-in scraper on your device. Most of you will already know this process, so please feel free to skip to the next section. However, I wanted to cover it for people who may not be aware. On the screen right now, I will be showing the process for scraping ROMs on the MiyooMini Plus using the Onion OS built-in scraper. A lot of devices have a scraper built into the OS. If they don't, you will want to follow one of the other methods. The main benefit is that it is easy and convenient. The drawbacks are that it can be a slow process if you have a lot of ROMs, and you don't get a lot of customization of how your Boxart actually looks. That about sums up how to do this process. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments, but we're going to move on to the more complicated stuff. The next method is a little more involved and does require a computer. First thing we are going to do is to go to Scraper.net, and that is Skraper with a K. Click the download button at the top, and then click download for Windows if that is the system you're running, and click that again, download for Windows. Once it's done downloading, you will want to go ahead and extract the zip file you get. After you have extracted the zip file, you will want to run the Scraper UI exe. When you run that, it will ask for a username and password, so we can go ahead and go to the ScreenScraper.fr website. Now on this website, you will need to click the register button in the top right and fill out your account information here to create an account. Once you have your account information, go ahead and enter that into the app and click validate, and then you can go ahead and click next. Now once you do that, this part is the part that takes the longest. It takes around 15 to 30 minutes to fully install this application. So while that's installing, if you are using the MiyooMini Plus, there is a third-party template that I do recommend getting for an option. The template is called MiyooMini Big Zoom, and it's by Achilles PDX. It is linked on the Onion OS website. However, I will have a link directly to this template in the description. Once it's done downloading, you will want to extract the 3 files into the Mixes folder that's located in your Scraper directory. Once Scraper is done installing, you will select the Recall Box option here, click Next, and from here you will select your path to your ROMs folder. Now I'm going to be doing this directly on the SD card for one of the MiyooMini Pluses. Once you have selected that, make sure to select the option that says Include Non-Recall Box ROM Folders. After you do that, just select Next, and then here you can also just select Next again. Once we get to this screen, we will want to check to make sure that all of our systems have pulled up correctly. Depending on how the folders are labeled, sometimes it will not pull in all of the systems. For the MiyooMini Plus, some of the systems are labeled FC for Famicom. It does not pull those in automatically. So if you have the same issue here, just follow these instructions, hit the plus button, and add each of them. Now you can add them all at the same time, like I'm doing now. For this example, I'm just going to be adding Super Nintendo, Genesis, NES, and Game Boy. Now you'll see I added one too many, so this is also how you delete one if you need to. You just highlight it here, and then click the minus button. So now that we have all 4 of the systems I have here, we will need to actually point to the exact folder where these ROMs are located for each of the systems. So select the system on the left, and then follow through on the folder path to exactly where they are located. For me, since I'm using the SD card, they are all under ROMs, and then each individual folder. I just go through once more to make sure they are all properly selected. Once that is done, you then want to click on the All Systems button in the top left, and we will go through each of these tabs here. The ScreenScraper account, we do not need to change anything. For the games list, we want to change the option right here that says backup existing. We want to change this to no backup, create new, or overwrite existing. And then for where it says games list full path, you can keep this the same. Or if you're using a MiyooMini Plus, you will want to write in Miyoo right before the games list. We don't need to change anything on metadata. Under miscellaneous, I do recommend deleting everything after the US option, and you can also delete the second EN here for the languages. Once that is done, we will go to the Media tab. Now this is where most of the customization comes in on how you decide what you want your box art to look like for your ROMs. So initially it has two different sets that it creates for you. One is the box 2D art, and the other one is a 4-image mix. As you can see, it has a picture of the case, the game cartridge, the title, and a screenshot. Depending on what device you're using, you can change this to a video if you use something that has like emulation station that supports videos. For right now, since I'm using the MiyooMini Plus, I'm going to delete one of these by selecting it and then clicking the minus button here on the left. And then as you can see, these are all the different options. You can also select this button here at the top, and that'll show you what different systems might look like with the different 2D box art. If you want one to be different than the others, you can then select them individually on the left, click the button that says Use Specific Configuration, and you can make a change specifically for that one system if you want it to look different than the other ones. I'm going to go back to all systems since I just want everything to look the same. For the output folder, this is where you want the images to go when it's done scraping them. So the MiyooMini Plus looks for a folder labeled IMGS with a capital I. So I will type that in here. If your system looks for something else, you may need to label it differently. If you are using a MiyooMini Plus, the box art is a wide box art. You will want to resize the width to 250. If it is a tall box art like this for Genesis, you may want to resize the height to 360. You will want to check the option for keep image ratio if you are using any of these resize heights or resize width options. These resize numbers will be different if you're using a different device. Checking the option for cleanup output folder before generating new media basically means to delete the folder that currently has the box art and then re-download it. So if you are scraping for new ROMs that you've added, but you want to keep everything you've already created, you can uncheck this and it will save some time. Do take note that anytime you do change the media type, the output folder will get reset. So we will have to relabel this as IMGS when we're done. But right now, I'm going to show you how to load in that third-party template that we downloaded earlier. You want to select the user-provided mix. From there, click on the little file icon on the right-hand side, and then we will select the MiyooMini Big Zoom option here that we extracted to the mixes folder. Once we've selected that, you will get a preview of what it looks like, and we do just need to make sure we update the output folder here as IMGS with a capital I. We can keep everything unchecked, and then we are ready to start. So we'll hit the play button here. Now it will take some time here to scrape through all the ROMs. This is a lot faster than if you were to scrape it on the device itself. And then I will show you a preview of what it looks like with the template, and also what it looks like with the 2D ROM box art without the template. And you can decide what you think looks better. For the taller images, I think I like the 2D box art. However, for the SNES wider images, I like the template one better. Now, you can mix and match these with Skraper. Like I showed you before, you could just edit each system individually and choose what you want done. A lot of this is just personal taste. So I recommend you looking at all the options and decide for yourself what looks best to you. Once it's done, if you use this on the SD card, it will have created the folder on the SD card already and you are set to go. You can just eject the SD card, plug it back in your system, and it should be loaded up. So this next option is the one that I use myself, and it's also the one that requires a lot of setup and tinkering to get right. So I will go over it step by step, but I just want to let you know beforehand that it uses Steam Rom Manager, and that is an application that has to run on a computer. And in order to run it, you will need Steam, and you also will need RetroArch set up on your system. If you don't have any of those, I will link to all of these in the description below. And you don't need them all set up with accounts, you just have to have them installed. So if you just want to use this to get Boxart, you can just install these programs, point Steam Rom Manager to them, continue on with the tutorial. I will also be linking to some batch scripts that I have written in order to make this process better if you have a large library. Now you don't need to use them, and you can download each individual image manually. I will show you how to do that, but the batch scripts that I wrote will speed up the process by auto converting them and auto picking out the ones that are needed. For this process to work, you will need the Steam Rom Manager version 2.4.11, as this is the version that allows you to export all of the images with the name still attached. I will have a link to that in the description below. Once you have that downloaded, you will want to go ahead and launch it. It will ask you to update. Just go ahead and click No. On the screen, I have a lot of my settings already set up, so just ignore everything on the left-hand side. You will want to go to the Settings option in the top left, and then in the bottom right-hand side, by hitting the Browse button, you will need to enter in where your Steam directory is located, along with where your RetroArch exe is located. Once you've done that, we will then want to click on Create Parser, and then in the top right-hand corner where it says Community Presets, you will want to type what system you are going to be scraping for. So for this, I have typed in SNES, and it does not matter which one you select here. Any of them will do. I will just select the SNEX 9X. Where it says Configuration Title, I will just type in SNES Boxart. Everything else we can leave as default. However, we will need to select the ROMs directory. That is going to have to be where exactly these ROMs are located. So if you have an SD card selected, as I do here, just go to the folder for the system that you have selected for. So for this, I will be selecting SFC, as that is the Super Famicom option. I will click Save in the bottom left, and you'll see I have a new option here for SNES Boxart. Make sure this little toggle is enabled. Click on Preview in the top left, and click Parse. Now it will scan the SteamGrid database and get all the Boxarts for you. When it's done, you can hover your mouse over any one of these game titles, and it should bring up a left and right arrow where you can browse through different Boxarts for each of these games. So if you see any that stand out that you don't like, or if there is a specific set that you want them all to match, you can go through and pick them out here. Some of them have a lot more than others, as some games are more popular. If you run into any mismatches or games that do not get found, you can click on the little magnifying glass and it will do a search based on the title, and you then just click one of these options that best matches your game and then click Save and Close for it to load the artwork. If you want to download the box art, you just have to click the little download button in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, if you want to download them all at the same time, this is the process that I have created some batch files for. The first thing you will do is you will click on the Export button and then create a new folder wherever you're going to export them. Label it as the system you are exporting for. Click Select Folder. Now, while those are downloading, we can take this time to download the batch files that I have provided a link to in the description. When these batch files are done downloading, we want to extract them to the same folder that we have exported these box art. And the reason why we need these batch files is when we exported the images, not only did it export just the front images that we need, it also exports a lot of icons and titles and things that Steam uses for these ROMs that we don't need on our machines. So the first thing to run for the batch file will actually clean up and delete all of the icons that we don't need and just leave us with the front box art. Now, the second thing I have added here will actually scale all of these images down for a MiyooMini Plus, and it converts all the JPEGs into PNGs, as MiyooMini Pluses require that. Now, if you have a different device that requires a different resolution, you can actually edit and open up the batch file for scaling and change the resolution size to be whichever you need. So instead of 250 by 360, if you need something else, you can just right-click on the scaling batch file, change those two numbers to whatever resolution you need, and that should work for your device. After that, it should package everything into the images folder. From here, you just drag and drop the images folder onto the SD card, and you should be all set. The last thing I'm going to go over real quick is how to create your own box art if none of these suit your needs. So I'm showing Steam Rom Manager here, and let's say you want everything to have the same type of logo or format like these ones up here do, and you find one that does not have it. The easiest way I've found to do this is to download the image of one that does not have the borders, download one of the images that does have the border, and then open up a photo editing program like Gimp or Photoshop. I'm going to be using Gimp here as it is free, and I'll post a link to it also. You want to first open up the photo editing software with the image that has the border that you're trying to copy. So for this one, I'm going to use ActRaiser with the border, and then you want to drag the next image that does not have the border that you want to give it one. You want to drag that to the layers area and make sure it is underneath the one with the border. Then right click on the bordered art, and if possible, select the Add Alpha Channel option. Once that is selected, you will want to make sure you have the square selection toolbox selected here on the left-hand side. And if you do, we just want to drag a square around the center piece of the artwork. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to make sure that it's at least close enough to get all of the art from the middle out. After you have it selected, you can either hit Ctrl X or right click and go to Edit and use the Cut feature. When you cut that out, you will automatically see the artwork that was hiding behind it on the layers. Now we can use the Move tool in the top left-hand corner with the 4 arrows. Make sure we have the art that we want to move around in the background selected on the layers, and then just click and drag until you think it looks good. So for here, I'm just going to move it around, try to get it centered. The biggest thing is just to make sure that there's no spaces on the right and left. Once you are happy with it, you can go ahead and go to File, Export As, give it a new name, or if you just want to overwrite the old one, that's fine, and click Export. Click Export again, and now you have the new file. If you're going to be using this in Steam Rom Manager, you can click the little image here in the bottom left-hand corner of the icon, which will allow you to then add the image and upload it to Steam Rom Manager. Now, when you add the image, it will get put to the back of the list, so you will need to use the arrows here to go to the very last option to see it. Now, let's say you want to do this with some other artwork that's maybe not on Steam Rom Manager. You can do it with anything. So I'm just going to find some Earthbound fan art real quick, download it as a save as, drag it back here. I'm just going to remove the Earthbound artwork that we were just using. And now you can see as this one is still too big, if we click this option here and right click and go to scale, this is the scaling tool. And now if you hold down shift, when you click one of the corners, it'll keep the aspect ratio of the image. We're going to shrink it down, try to move it to the center, make sure it's as centered as possible. Shrink it down, kind of increase it just to make sure it's at least centered, and then we can use the move tool to kind of finalize how we want it to look. Once it's somewhere where we want it, we can do the same thing here. Hit File, Export As. This time we're just going to call Earthbound 2, Export, hit Export again, and we're just going to close this out since we're done here. And if we open up Steam Rom Manager again, we can add this artwork too, and it'll be, again, put at the back of the list so we can see it here. Now, if you're doing this for everything, it does take quite a bit of time, and if you do plan on exporting all of these and putting them on a device, make sure you edit and choose all your artwork first, and then you can go click Export. I also do recommend, if you are going to make any of these yourself, please upload them to the SteamGridDatabase.com website. It's just SteamGridDB.com. That way other people can benefit from the work that you've done. I try to upload at least most of the ones that I do here. I'll show you an example. I just go to SteamGridDatabase. I have an account. I click Submit at the top, and I'm just going to click Upload. And here I'm going to upload one that I've made for Vortex. Once you just type in the game Vortex, some of the dates may not always be right. This one is showing 2015, when really this game came out in like 94. However, when you click on it and you can search it, I see some other game art which is very similar. I'm going to go ahead and add it to this one. I hope you had found a method that works best for you. If you have any questions about anything in this video, please feel free to ask in the comments below, and I'll answer them as soon as I can. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.